All right, welcome back. It's time for us to get into a very important conversation. You know, we've been talking about Galamsey and looking at different aspects and different things that have been happening. There have been protests all weekend and so on. There are more protests planned for this week and then the weekend that's coming and so on and so forth. But even outside of Ghana, there have also been protests as well. And let's take a look at what happened. Chris, I don't know if you saw any of that.
Yes.
What was happening in the UK over the weekend?
I actually followed all the protests, and especially with the hashtag.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how not just Ghanaians here are actually worried about the, what's happening with the environment when it comes to this issue of Galamsey, but also Ghanaians abroad understand that this is home. Ghanaians in the diaspora understand that, okay, when we leave this place, we still have to come back here.
It's our home.
Ghana is not...
And we still have family members here.
You understand? And Ghana is not just a holiday location. You know, it's not for dirty December only. You need, this is home. So it was interesting how they actually also, lended their voice.
But generally speaking, I love how the build-up, you can feel it. It's building up where people are protesting, but it's not just an online protest. They're sticking out into the spaces and actually going onto the field. Look, if Catholic bishops are going for a walk, a prayer protest walk, all the way from the Holy Spirit Cathedral to Christ the King, look, everybody's getting involved.
Well, if the traditionalists are also getting involved.
2,000 of them, about 2,000 fetish priests are getting involved as well. But over the weekend, let's go take a look at what happened in the UK.
Now, the 3-day hashtag Stop Galamsey Now, hashtag Free the Citizens Now demonstrations are being held not just digitally, but also physically across borders. In fact, I'm standing at the entrance of the Ghana High Commission in London, which is serving as a venue for diasporans, Ghanaian immigrants and supportive nationals from other countries to collectively demand for the immediate release of approximately 50 detained Ghanaian citizens, some of which were actually exercising their constitutional right to protest, as well as calling the Ghanaian government and the Ghanaian presidency to immediately halt all mining activities. Now, initially, the focus for the demonstrations was to do with illegal mining, locally known as Galamsey. However, regulation has proven to be quite poor because 60% of Ghana's water bodies, according to the Water Resources Commission, have been deeply affected. And so concerned citizens are taking a more holistic approach in terms of the demands. They're asking for mining activities to completely stop, whether licensed or not, because it's safe to say that once upon a time we did have very clear waters, and now we have brown, murky waters comparable to the hot chocolate beverages that are, ironically enough, sourced by Ghanaian cocoa beans. Now, diasporans are typically criticised for being out of touch with local matters or local problems. However, safe to say, from this turnout, people do care beyond the borders. In fact, we're actually going to speak to some of these activists, protesters and concerned citizens, as well as diasporans, as to what they have to say about everything that's happening, especially with hashtag Stop Galamsey Now and hashtag Free the Citizens. And it wouldn't be a protest if you weren't actually hearing what the individuals that are present have to say. What are some of the measures you think the government, or suggestions that you think the government should definitely put in place in terms of tackling this issue that is Galamsey?
I think the government should really implement immediate protocols such as closing Galamsey sites. I feel like Galamsey is a real issue. Me personally, growing up, whenever going to my dad's hometown is Afwaku Jacob, if you know, it's in the Ashanti region, and there's 2 rivers which you encounter, River Fin and River Da, and basically when you see those rivers, like always going to my hometown, it was disgusting, like to see it was always brown. For the past like 12 years since I started going to my hometown, I've never seen it clean. So the government should really enforce like a lot of banning and complete closures of these illegal mining sites.
Here with one of the lead conveners for this demonstration, that is the Stop Galamsey Now hashtag Free the Citizens Now protest in London. Tracy, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing well.
Fabulous. And what do you think about today's turnout for the protest?
I think it's definitely very good. It's a lot more than what I expected. I think when you're planning, you don't really truly understand the gravity and the weight of what you're doing until you see it in person. And so to see all these people who have come today, I am really happy and really impressed and glad.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask, you're clearly very passionate about what's happening in Ghana, regardless of the distance. What are your views on the need for a call to a state of emergency?
I think at this point it's definitely long overdue. I think like many of us were saying in our speeches, water is an essential thing. Do you know what I mean? I think we as humans, water you can't live without. You can try, but at the end of the day, water is an essential regardless of where you are, where you're from, who you are, your position. Everybody needs water. And so unfortunately to see the country as it is, where people are turning their taps on and water's coming out brown, people are going outside the river Pearl, other water bodies are brown. You know, people need that water for their farming, produce, bathing, hygiene. I think the fact that in 2021, 60% was already corrupted alone. Imagine what it's like now, we're in 2024. So I think a state of emergency, yes, it's a must. At this point, it's a crisis.
All right, so that's the happenings over the weekend. And Lourdes Alexandra Pong, who was with us right here at ChannelOne TV and is going back to the UK now. You saw her speaking there to the various persons involved in the protest, has joined us on Zoom this morning. Lourdes, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, quickly, David. And good morning to you, Team Breakfast Daily. How are we doing today?
Very good. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. I can see Chris is really smiling. The minute you actually introduced the segment, all her 32 and 40 were just out there. But and also a good morning to every single C1 out there. Yeah. I miss you guys dearly, and it's lovely to have this conversation. Unfortunately, under very dire circumstances.
But talking about dire circumstances, what was it that triggered the protest in the UK? Because I mean, for us in Ghana, it's a clear and present danger that we're dealing with. But far away in the UK, what is it that sort of sparked the people to get out onto the streets?
So upon having a conversation with the conveners, they just felt that it was it was just so absolutely necessary for them to contribute to the movement. Especially since, I don't know if you've realized, but as of the last few years, there's been this large exodus where there's various Ghanaian nationals that have moved back to the UK. And obviously what they want really is to make sure that they get some money or make some money and then come back home. But it's proven to be difficult considering the fact that home doesn't seem as safe anymore. And also, a lot of the times, I think diasporans are criticized for being so out of touch with the local matters. And so this was the perfect opportunity to show that not only do they care, but they actually want to go out there and cheer on everybody back home and support them in the way that they can possible, because at the end of the day, it all affects us. You might be in the UK, but you definitely have family who are going to be, affected by these issues. So why not speak out, especially when you have the platform?
Absolutely. Now, after this protest that happened this weekend, are there any other activities or activations that the conveners are looking to get involved in?
To the best of my knowledge, and not yet. However, they do have a group. They actually formed a group. It's called UK Voices for Ghana, where it's basically any individual that is Ghanaian diasporan or Ghanaian immigrant or British Ghanaian like myself, or just anyone that's actually interested in Ghanaian matters, where they discuss all that they need to and update each other on what's happening back home.
Wonderful. All right, so talking about people who just want to support, especially people who are not Ghanaian, I saw some, people that don't look Ghanaian necessarily, but are also part of this protest. What do you think actually motivated them to join this conversation or this protest?
For most of them, they're ethnic minorities like ourselves here, and so they understand why it's so important to voice out things, to come together. According to statistics, the UK is 80% white and then 20% mostly a division of different races. And so when it comes to matters like this, when you know that you know, more voices are needed, more faces need to be present. They just want to come together and support people. Other people talked about having friends from back home and just wanting to be present for something that's just such a problem. And other people have just visited Ghana and they feel like as they're, you know, doing the Dirty December, emphasis on dirty at this point, they might as well, you know, they can't just come for the good times, as one person said, but also be there for Ghanaians during the bad times.
Right. And what's the conversation among Ghanaians like? I know you might know some Ghanaian community, but I don't know how many of them that you know. What's the conversation among them like right now? Is it sort of divided like here? I mean, the conversation's going on that we need to stop Galamsey, but we still have people who play politics with it and then argue about the whole thing when it comes to, you know, politics in the mix. So is it the same thing there? Do you have people that are also politicizing the whole thing or not looking at it as serious or thinking, okay, because this is this party that is probably foiling in this protest?
So I haven't actually met anyone of such nature, but I absolutely do think that there are definitely people that are politicizing the issue. In fact, if you guys remember very clearly, last year's protests for the hashtag Occupy Jubilee House, Occupy Jubilee House, there were actually counter-protesters that were present, and they made it very, very blatant that not only were they coming to disrupt what was going on or the message being you know, brought out, but they were actually there to represent the ruling party, which is the New Patriotic Party at the moment. So yeah, I think there definitely will always be divided opinion, but it's such a serious issue. And so you do question why people either want to be neutral or be on the other side of this argument, because it's the environment, it's where we live, it's the water we drink. How on earth are you going to politicize that?
Yeah. Well, I also think, Lourdes, and maybe you may come across such persons in the coming days and weeks, but what about people who whose family members have financed their trip to the UK from proceeds from Galamsey?
That's really interesting. So I haven't actually met anyone there, but I think it's quite evident that there are various people amongst ourselves and even probably within the station that have the privilege of being close to or proximity to the ruling party at the moment. At times, people do feel quite conflicted because they feel like, you know what, I'm being financed by what's going on in this country. But at the same time, too, I feel very passionately about what's happening. And I absolutely do not want to, you know, I want to side with people that want this to be completely out of our system. But it's a personal choice, to be honest. It's either you're for it or you're against it. And if you're against it, then you need to be loud about it because every single voice matters.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Lourdes. Thank you for speaking to us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Mega shout out to the newsroom, by the way. VK, hopefully you're listening. And obviously Hanson and Emmanuel, thank you so much for actually assisting me in this report. But ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, if you need more information about the situation, you can obviously visit the various news channels, more specifically ours, of course. And then while you're at it, definitely check out the hashtag Stop Galamsey Now, hashtag Free the Citizens, which, by the way, it's the 8th of October, I believe. So we're supposed to be hearing about what the final verdict is regarding the 50 wrongfully detained protesters.
All right. Thank you very much. And we've been speaking with Lourdes Alexandra Opong. She is a Ghanaian living in the UK, of course. And she's our extended family member.
Yes, my baby. Yeah. But you asked a very important question, and I never, ever thought of it. Like people who are actually, people who were actually being financed by the proceeds of Galamsey. Like I never thought of it. It's a reality,
you see. So,
but the question is, will those people know? Maybe they're Gen Zs. Would they even know that? Okay,
you know if your parents are involved. You know what your dad does for business. You know what your mom does for business, right? So you know if your mom has a mining business. You know if your dad has a mining business. You may not know. You may not have ever been to the ground and seen the extent of devastation that they're involved in, but you will know, right, to some extent. But I do think that there are a lot of people, because you see, mind you, it's a multi-million-dollar industry. Galamsey, right? It's a multi-million-dollar industry. Now, of course, there are various categories, and we're not going to be bothering about breaking it down here. That's not the intent of it. But we're saying that irresponsible mining is our issue, right? Let's it doesn't matter, unless I want to just say that for those who are small-scale miners and you're legit, right, you still need to watch out for those people amongst you who are mining irresponsibly, because that's the issue, right? If you wash your ore, you know, and then you get your gold, and the runoff water is piped into a river, the runoff water that has lead and mercury in it, and you pipe into a river, you're also guilty. Yes, you might not have a champagne in the river, but you are equally guilty. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, because it's not
You know?
sustainable.
You are destroying the environment. And you're making it difficult for us when we talk about food security issues. Yes, because soon the corn will eat, the yam will be
Even
eating.
our yam right now, I heard, there was actually a post that one of the media houses made that our yams right now have been tested and there've been particles of lead in yam.
There you have,
and I love fried yam.
There you have
I love fried yam. So
there you have it.
Imagine.
Yep. Yam and chofi. You go and then there's mercury and lead in the yam that you are eating. It's very sad. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back. There's more on Breakfast Daily.